Hang on. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in again to the Spiritual OT channel and listening to another one of these super exciting interviews. Today, I am joined by Tilby. She is an occupational therapist and a craniosacral therapist who specializes in primitive reflex work with children along with so many other cool things. Tilby has such a beautiful and holistic, integrative approach to her therapy, and I'm super excited to chat with you today. So thank you for being here.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Cool. So firstly, I just wanted to ask you to tell me a bit about you, like what lights you up, what are your passions? Yeah, let us get to know you a little bit.
yeah. Well, I am very multi-passionate, but I feel as though like my business and my work is probably my biggest passion, which I'm really grateful for because it means that I can like dive into all the books and the podcasts and listen to conversations like these. And it's my downtime, but it's also my work and it fills me up. My client work and just learning new things. Yeah, that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I love that. So can you tell me a little bit about your role as an OT currently? What does your work look like? I know it's probably a little bit moving away from the traditional, but I think that's so exciting right now in the OT space and the allied health space. So yeah, what does your role look like at the moment?
So at the moment, there's many reasons why my role looks this way. But at the moment, I work online via telehealth. And so I work with clients across Australia. My focus is on working with primitive reflexes. And I support parents predominantly with being able to understand where their child's at, what's going on for them, and then looking at it through the lens of primitive reflex work and also the nervous system, and then tying it all together with parent coaching and a home program as well. So all of the clients that I work with really, really super upfront before we start working together. I let them know the process and what to expect. That the home program is a large part of therapy. And we connect about every month. So for some clients, it's a little bit sooner than that. And for some clients, they're happy to have a bit more of a spacious window before they touch base again.
Yeah.
And the home program is really quite comprehensive. It's delivered on an app called TheraTrack, which was developed by another OT in Australia, Laura Simmons. And I've been using that for a couple of years now because it's pretty much the bridge between being able to take the information from our sessions and then parents being able to access it on their phone or tablet at home. And so when I realized that I wanted to work in this way, and break the traditional way of either weekly or fortnightly therapy, it was really grounded in the fact that if I can give parents and families the tools that they need to be able to supplement and integrate it into their everyday activities and daily living, then it was going to have, and it does have, a much bigger impact in being able to support them on their journey to reach their goals and to be able to do the things they do every day.
Yes, I love that you made that point because I think something I've found too in moving into the coaching space is that we really can, and even the evidence is showing this now with research and everything, we can actually create more substantial and greater impact when we empower and upskill the people who are with the children the most of the time, whether it be the parents
Absolutely.
or the teachers or whoever it is. We get more gain in a shorter period of time than if they're only having access to our expertise, our intervention, whatever it might be, once a week or once a fortnight for that hour's time. So
Definitely.
yeah, I think it's so powerful. And also working online and in that coaching space means we can reach people everywhere, all over the country, all over the world, and I think there is such a shortage of allied health support, OT support in regional and rural communities. And, we can bring that to that space now through the internet. So, if anything good came from the big push towards telehealth, I think this is one of those things. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was definitely not like a random thought. I had been thinking about working this way for many years, and then I
Mhm.
finally, took the leap, and I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to put some things in place and really work out how I want to work that feels aligned with me and my
Yeah.
energy and what my sensory needs are and my nervous system, to be able to work in a way that felt fulfilling, that was also supporting families in the way that they needed. Because obviously, the way that I've just said that I work isn't going to suit everyone. But if I'm clear and transparent about how I work and what opportunities are available, then the people who are aligned with that, or the clients that want to work in that way, can choose to work in that way. Or there's another abundance of therapists out there who work differently. And that's what I really wanted to do as well, is to work out what worked for me in terms of being aligned with what my needs were as a therapist, so that my work didn't feel like work. It actually fulfilled me and lit
Yes.
me up and energized me, so that I wanted to get up every day and go to work
Hmm.
and feel fulfilled and energized. And so it definitely took a lot of contemplation and thinking about the therapy models and what worked and what didn't, what aligned for me, how I could shift and mold that into being able to, yeah, really support me first. Because ultimately, when my cup's full, then I can give to my clients and the people I work with in a really sustainable way and not burn out.
I love that too, because at the moment, especially with, this neurodivergent affirming movement in therapy, one of the main things I think that kind of comes up often as a goal for our clients is about being able to advocate for their own needs that may be different from another person or from a typical societal norm or whatever it might be. And so,
Mm.
what better place for us to start than to be actually modeling that as the therapist, that I am advocating for myself to meet my own needs, whatever they might be, and whatever way we identify. It doesn't even, you don't have to be identified as neurodivergent or anything else to be able to step into a space where you feel into the body. What do I need as an individual? What resonates for me to feel grounded and safe and connected? And then be able to share that from a lived experience perspective as well as just a professional perspective. I think that in itself is like, it's so powerful.
Yeah, and we meet our clients on a deeper level too, because we're showing up for ourselves and meeting our own needs and working out what it is that works for us, doesn't work for us. Like we were saying earlier, like being able to just know what our day-to-day needs are, being able to attend to those. Like, what is it that from a sensory perspective, or managing our temperature, or for me, it's like remembering to drink water.
Yeah.
Like, those basic needs, if we're able to be attuned to those, and then some more complex areas of our lives too, then yeah, like you said, we're really modeling that to be able to support our clients and the people we work with.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's so important. And I think it sets a really good example. It's like, here I am, I'm setting boundaries, I'm advocating for myself. It's like showing someone that I'm not just talking the talk, I'm walking the walk, and I'm showing you how you can do it as well. And I loved to how you said that not everyone is going to align. And I think this is a really important message for everyone, especially anyone who is in the process of discovering their true identity or being able to step into their true self or find a sense of belonging, that not everyone is going to align, and that's okay, because that's what makes us uniquely different and makes the world exciting. And if we were all the same, it would be so boring, and not everyone's going to align, but that doesn't take away from your value as an individual. And I think that's a really important message.
Definitely. And if you're looking for support, don't be afraid to wait until you find the right support, rather
Mhm.
than hoping that someone who kind of meets some needs, but not all of them, you know, it's
Yeah.
taken me a while, from a professional and a personal perspective, to find the mentors or the spaces that I wanted to be in. And I really had to
Yes.
hold myself through that and go, okay, I know what I need. I'm just going to set the intention and put it out there. And lo and behold, they turn up when we're ready. So,
Hmm.
if it is, yeah, if it's in your field at the moment to be looking for that kind of support, don't be afraid to work out what it is exactly what you're needing, and then go with your like your checklist of things that that person, needs to meet, because
Yeah.
then you're meeting your needs in that process too.
Yeah, so powerful. And even that in itself is a step towards autonomy and advocacy and, all the things that we are trying to shift towards for all people in the sort of neurodiversity movement. So yeah. Why did you want to be an OT? Like, did you always want to become an OT, or was that something that sort of developed later?
So it's a funny story because when I look back, I mean, I can laugh about it now. I've done a lot of healing work, but initially it was really quite a shock. Like, oh, wow. Like when it landed for me, the fact that when I was a child, experiencing different things early on, like different sensory needs,
Mm.
so many different food challenges,
Hmm.
um, emotional ups and downs. Like I was the child who would hold it all in at school and then everything would come out most days at home. And, then I started reflecting on that later on in life and I was like, why was that? And now that I have come kind of full circle and I have a lot more pieces, it makes so much sense why I was drawn to the OT profession.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, when I was in high school and you go to the career days or, you get the things sent home from high school,
Yeah.
um, my mum's like, you would love occupational therapy. You would love it. And I think I was in year 10 at the time. And I was like, whatever, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Finished year 12. It's going back a while now, but finished year 12. And then I was like, oh, I want to be a paramedic. I don't know. I liked the idea of the health profession.
Yeah.
First year in the paramedic degree or like the health science, all we looked at was stress and burnout. And I realized I am too sensitive for this. Like they were preparing us to recognize whether we were like a good fit or not. And I kind of had this moment. I was like, oh, I don't know. But just at that time when I realized, hang on a minute, like this is not going to be suitable for what I knew about myself at the time
Yeah.
with my ability to handle stress and being under pressure. It just so happened the uni where I was studying actually was then starting an occupational therapy master's degree. And so somehow, just by a sequence of synchronous events, I was able to apply for that, get accepted, and move through to the degree as they basically wrote the program. So we were
Yeah.
like, I think, the second cohort to go through the OT masters.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but looking back, it makes so much sense why I was drawn to the profession. And I feel
Hmm.
like I was probably guided there
Yeah.
on an intuitive and soul mission level because
Yeah.
um, the just synchronicity of the events unfolding and just my own experiences early on
Hmm.
that now give me a completely different perspective than what I might have had if I didn't have that embodied and lived experience. Because when I work with children and families now, I have such a deeper awareness and so much more ability to see where they are and where they're coming from. Like
Yeah.
my body has been through very similar sensory overwhelm experiences, and we're all different in our nervous
Yeah.
system and
Yeah.
in those experiences. But it absolutely helped me to have that embodied experience and that lived experience to draw from and go, wow, I remember just how hard it was for myself to navigate this world. Oh, I'm just going to hold so much support and appreciation and space for the person I'm working with because
Yes.
I really see where they're coming from. So it's such a blessing, like that I had to go through all of the challenges and the hard,
Yeah.
yucky stuff, and then to come out on the other side and the fact that my profession perfectly matched my early experience. You can't make it up.
Yeah. I totally resonate. Like I feel very like I had a very similar story. I didn't really know what I wanted to do and then found OT and then I was like, I could have done with one of these. Like um and
Yep.
then, automatically wanted to work in the pediatric space. Did you always feel called to the pediatric space because of your own experience or?
Well, not consciously. So
Yeah.
I was in uni and I went on my first placement and I was placed with in a pediatric placement. And I kind of just had this knowing, how you have some things drop in and like that kind of voice or the knowing awareness of like, oh, I think
Yes.
I'm going to work in pediatrics is what I said to myself.
Yeah.
Didn't necessarily want to or feel like it was where I was meant to be, but I just had this knowing of like, I think I'm going to end up here. And I
Yeah.
kind of logically thought, well, my mom worked with children in childcare, so it kind of makes sense that I would follow a
Yeah.
similar path. And, I justified it in that way. And I knew I was always going to work rurally for my first job. Some of these things just, I don't know, on my path
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
already aligned. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Um, In regards to this movement towards like neurodiverse affirming practice and all these things that are coming out a lot more now from all different corners of the globe,
Mm.
do you have a specific sort of memory or event or something in your either life or career experience that has shifted the way you see this or the way you practice or your role as an OT?
Yeah. So other than like my lived experience of having neurodivergent nervous system because of so many different experiences and I could go down 10 million rabbit holes on that. But I think the piece that actually landed was when I started studying craniosacral therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I really started to understand the intricacies and the interconnectedness of our body and the fascia and the nervous system and how everything just interweaves to the point where, our body holds the experiences that we move through. And
Yeah.
I like to think of the fascia, which is the connective tissue from head to toe, as the tapestry of life. And so all of those experiences that we've been through, everything our
Mm-hmm.
body remembers. And that training, the 2.5 years that I studied the craniosacral therapy work, and then started using that with my clients, I just realized that we are all so individual in those experiences that we've had, and
Yeah.
we're we're shaped in that way, and for a good reason. Like our nervous system and our body want us to experience life in the best way possible. So of course it's going to help keep us safe and it will do whatever it needs to. But having that lens has really helped me bring in much more wider perspective of the fact that it's actually for me about getting curious and going like, where are you at right now?
Mm-hmm.
And like, how can I meet you there where you are right now in the moment?
Yes.
Whoever I'm working with. So,
Yes.
and just having that appreciation that we are all carrying around past experiences. Some of us are further along on our healing journey. Some
Mm-hmm.
of us are further along on our journey of like finding ourselves and connecting with who we are and being able to understand our sensory preferences or what our dominant nervous system state is, and
Yes.
even our attachment style. Like we're all at different points of being able to understand that. So being able to meet the people that we're working with where they are and just having that curiosity
Mm.
and like opening our heart to be able to meet them where they are. These are the core foundation things that I feel as therapists. It's really
Yes.
such an important piece. And, I can do that because I've done the work to get where I am. So I can fully appreciate that maybe some of the things I'm saying might not land or might not be appropriate for where someone's at who might be listening. But the process of self-discovery and moving through what my early experiences have been, and using a trauma-informed and trauma-educated lens through studying body work and studying the nervous system and
Mm.
polyvagal theory, all of the things,
Yeah.
that has really been the piece that has allowed me to be able to, whoever I'm working with, connect with them with exactly where they are and hold space.
That is so powerful, I think. Um, because I think we're at a place now where there is this subtle shift from professionals sort of coming in with the answers and always sort of being like prescriptive and do this or do that and blah blah. And now it's like we're coming in being curious and wanting to learn from our client and to go on a journey with them as a guide or as someone who may share resources, but really that this journey is that of the individual and their experience. um and that while we have sort of buckets of knowledge from our training that we've got, at the end of the day, like you said, everyone's nervous system and their responses and their experiences are different, and there are no two people that have had the same series of life events that have compounded to be the presentation that they are right now in this moment when they connect with you.
Yeah.
um and so I think being able to shift both our focus as professionals and service users, because I know both of us have been on both sides of that. But also for other people listening who may be considering accessing service of any kind, that there is this sort of shift now happening towards an empowerment model for the individual. and to allow that person to not be sort of dictated to about, do this, do this, do this in regards to their own health, but rather going on an explorative journey to find what it is that their individual system is needing.
Yeah. And I think too, like a lot of therapists might have felt the pressure to be in that expert role because that's what our training has been,
Yes.
is that you hold the answers. Well, actually,
Yes.
when you go on your own journey and you
Hmm.
start healing, you realize actually I hold my own answers. And then you apply that principle to the people you're working with and you realize actually they hold their own answers. I'm the guide and the facilitator here. Like I'm walking alongside them. And
Yes.
so I feel like for those of us who've been able to go on that journey and excavate, our inner landscapes a little bit, and we understand that actually I do have everything that I need inside of me. I need someone to come along and support me and work out how do I access those things that I already have, or the
Yeah.
wisdom I already have, or the knowledge I already have about myself. So that's what gets me excited, is that there is that
Yes.
movement towards being able to be the guide and the facilitator, walking alongside.
Yes. And empowering people. So
Mhm.
powerful. I did want to ask too, for those listening who may not be familiar with like craniosacral therapy, if you
Yeah.
could tell us a little bit more about that and
Yeah.
how that ties in so beautifully with the OT work.
So I sat with this for a long time because when I was studying, I felt like I would never be an OT anymore and I would just be a body worker doing craniosacral because I couldn't work out at the time how the two fit together. And then
Mhm.
I didn't really want to pick which side that I was
Yeah.
gonna continue with on my journey. And I was like, okay, well, I was drawn to this for a reason. I was drawn to this work because through going on my own personal journey of receiving body work, to come into my body, like on the bodywork table after 6 months, I realized I'm in a body. Wow. Okay. Because for most of my childhood, I'd been living mostly outside of my body, or
Yeah.
like cerebrally in my mind, and not connecting with my sensory experience because it was so overwhelming for
Yes.
my entire nervous system that I couldn't process that information. So I did exist outside of my body. So my body then obviously hit a point receiving body work, feeling safe enough to be able to feel the sensation of, okay, I'm here, I've
Mhm.
landed. And then I mustered up the courage to ask the person who I was receiving body work from for several months, how do I learn this? Like the
Mm.
children that I work with, they would so benefit. I mean, whole families too, but particularly I was thinking at the time the clients I was working with, and just in terms of like their sensory processing and their nervous system.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of where I started the journey of going to study craniosacral. Um, and then along the way, pieces dropped in for me in my own experience. I started noticing that I could hold more capacity for change or stress or overwhelm, or
Yeah.
um, I was unpacking experiences my body was releasing that held energy, and I guess aspects of trauma that were held in my body. So I
Yeah.
moved this whole process of really like completely upgrading my nervous system and becoming a new person, I guess, in
Yeah.
so many ways. And then, like I said before, I was kind of conflicted because I thought, where does this fit? And then I was like, hang on a minute, everything starts with the nervous system. We can't have sensory processing. We can't process senses, and we can't like work with sensory processing, sensory integration if we're not looking at the nervous system.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we all have a brain and body, and the brain and body allows us to engage in our daily activities. I was like,
Yeah.
this definitely fits. And so the way that I was able to marry those two together is to be able to focus on the self-regulation piece and the nervous system regulation piece. So clients would come to me. I'd done a lot of my inner work to be able to regulate my own nervous system, which
Yeah.
meant that they were getting the benefits whether I offered craniosacral therapy or not. I had done the inner work to hold space for them, to hold
Yeah.
space for their emotions and the big energy. And then after like 10 minutes, maybe 15, that high energy would start to come down, and they were co-regulating with my nervous system, which was holding the
Hmm.
space and grounding them in the therapy room. And even for parents too. And then you see people start yawning, like that's the parasympathetic nervous system switching on, and they're like
Yes.
really reaching that relapsed state because I was simply regulating my own nervous system and being able to hold that space as a result of that work. So, you know, it kind of just became interwoven through naturally who I am as an OT. And I realized I couldn't actually take this hat off. It was
Yeah.
just integrated into my being. So that's how this body work has become interwoven into my therapy practice. And because I don't work with clients at the moment face to face and I'm doing online work, you know, it's a little bit different because I'm not in the room and in the space, but there's definitely aspects to being able to come back to what we were saying before about, you know, being curious and open, and just the lens that I picked up from studying body work and the nervous system.
Mm.
It's all integrated into through how I speak with clients, and, you know, the pacing of how fast we move through things, or
Yeah.
everything. So it's just become part of my therapist identity.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. I love how you said too that it's part of who you are, because I was talking to Rhiannon and Chris from the OT Lifestyle Movement the other week, and she was saying the same thing, that like being an OT becomes almost like a mindset, a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of seeing situations, a way of problem solving. And once you sit in that seat, it's really hard to like not be in that anymore. And so then anything else that you learn, like, you know, with me becoming a Reiki practitioner and those sorts of things, you never take the OT hat off. You never stop thinking this holistic, client-led, you know, way of moving through, literally breaking down barriers that they have in their lives. And I think that's super cool about this profession, right? Like
Yeah,
it's so fulfilling and passion driven in that way. Um,
absolutely.
but I know you and I have spoken, you know, we have a lot of shared views and alignments on like spirituality and the human experience. And I just wondered how you feel that spirituality as a whole aligns with occupational therapy.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I have been on my own journey of like discovering what spirituality means and what it means for me. It's so personal.
Mhm.
And I feel as though, yeah, for some people can carry a lot of weight because maybe there's this pressure like, oh, what's my intuition telling me? Because, you know, I use certain language that makes sense for myself. Like, for example, if I see things like angel numbers, or if I see messages, like the other day I saw someone's car with the number plate stuck, and I was like, oh, that resonates for me because there's, you know, it's a pattern that I've been working through, or
Yeah.
a theme. And so it's Marion Rose calls it conversations with life. And I love that analogy because
Mhm.
it's like we're having a conversation with life. We have a thought or an emotion. We think of someone, they call us.
Mhm.
It's this dance between, like, you know, what our internal experience is and what we're seeing around us. And are
Yeah.
we receiving the messages? Are we seeing yeah, are we hearing the conversations? Or are
Mm.
we hearing the messages from life? So I don't know if I answered your question specifically, but that's kind of how I view spirituality, is this interconnectedness with the things that we can't see and the unseen, and the
Mm.
messages from life, and the intuitive guidance we receive from within, and how it all comes together. And just being curious about, like, what in this experience right now, like what is available for me to learn or discover about
Mm.
myself, or like, you know, where does this fit with my other experiences, and like what can I take from this? And that's a question I'm constantly asking myself. Not always a fun question, but
Yeah.
the inner inquiry that comes with that, and really being able to connect inward with
Mm.
the inner teacher. I guess that's what our intuition is referred to, is our inner teacher, our inner guidance, or inner GPS, I call it
Yeah.
sometimes.
And how much does everything you just said align with what we were saying OT is a second ago?
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, that like, and obviously I don't think spirituality has to be defined as religion. You know, I think there's a lot of people who think that it's religious or it sits with a specific set of beliefs or a specific teaching. I think spirituality is just exactly that. It's how you understand your sense of being and belonging within the world. And it can
Your
be completely
connection.
unique. Yeah,
Yeah,
completely
and your
unique to
connection to
you.
self.
Yeah. And I think that's really powerful. It's almost like, because like if we look at, say, the CMOP model of occupational therapy, Canadian model of occupation, occupational performance, there's spirituality as one of the elements, right, within that model. So it's actually taught to us as a part of a model. But then even if you look at other models like the model of human occupation and stuff, like volition and motivation are in there. And one might argue that those are key elements to one's connection to self. And
Mm.
then it's like, well, is it just a little section of a model, or is spirituality or conversations with life, or whatever word you want to use to describe that, actually the entire essence of what occupational therapy is? Because we are working with what occupies someone's time and what brings them meaning. Like,
Yeah.
it's like it's like this full connected piece. And I think when we, without often realizing it, when we step into that space where we meet someone where they are and we connect with their current state, their feelings, their needs, their experiences, are we not tapping into their experience of humanness and
Mm.
guiding them through this journey to be comfortable, to feel safe, to feel accepted, to feel validated as, who they are, right?
Yeah.
And so I also feel in this, like, neurodivergent affirming practice movement, I believe there is a lot more spirituality, or whatever you want to refer to it as, that is being brought into this, that human connection, I guess.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I keep coming back to the connection to self, because if we have that inner safety and we have that ability to meet our own needs and like understand what it is that we're needing in the
Mm.
moment, like when we have that sense of safety, that's when we are able to extend that beyond like our own experience.
Yeah.
And so I come at it with a nervous system lens too, right? Because if you look at the social engagement system, like without that sense of inner safety, it's really hard for us
Yeah.
to be able to reach out of our little bubble and then go,
Mm.
oh, I'm just going to move over here. I'm going to move towards that opportunity. I'm going to move towards connecting with this person. I mean, I've had this
Yeah.
experience time and time again of going,
Yeah.
oh, meeting my edge, but really coming back to being able to like regulate myself, be aware of my needs, understand my nervous system, my inner experience. So it really comes through the body as well.
Yeah.
Being able to, connect in with that inner guidance, or our connection to self and spirituality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so powerful. Um, is there anything else that you would like to share about, like any of your own experiences or work, personal, anything like that, that you think could be valuable for people who are exploring, I guess, this awareness of neurodiversity, of, I guess is it moving away a little bit from sort of more traditional models of medical practice into more empowering states? I don't even know. It's so kind of broad what's happening, but there's definitely this movement, right, towards autonomy and advocacy. And so, yeah, I guess anything that you feel is valuable, or that you want to share about that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, because I feel like there is this larger movement, and inside that larger movement, there's like, this is why it's difficult to name, because there's multiple other movements that are really happening all at once.
Yeah, I
And so there's
agree.
a lot kind of going on and shifting, and we're like, hang on a minute, what is this? What are we calling it? What, how do we connect
Hmm.
it? Really, what I think it is about coming back to our humanness, for me, because you know, going back to like experiences of what we were taught, like in counseling subjects at uni, or I just feel as though for me, and it could be different for other therapists or people working with clients, but I felt like I couldn't be my true self. And I felt like
Mm.
there was this idea that I had to mask. Now, obviously, there's, certain, like, I'm talking holistically, like, I couldn't necessarily come and feel like I could be my true self.
Yeah.
Because, there's a point where like professional and personal meet, and I obviously understand boundaries and all of
Mm.
those sorts of things. But to
Yeah.
me, it just felt like the boundary was like pushed so far that I couldn't kind of show up in be who I was.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is part of my journey because I didn't feel safe in my body and I, had some inner work to do. But even just knowing, like, I could be wrong, but I feel like I was told, like, don't share your values and beliefs and those sorts of things. These are the core things. Like, even my lived experience is one of the core pieces that allows me to be an effective therapist, to be able to
Mm.
meet my client where they are. I'm not assuming that they're having the same experience, but I'm acknowledging just how big that was for me and being open and curious to what their experience is as a
Mm-hmm.
result of that reference point in my experience and going, okay, this is how it was for me. I'm not
Yeah.
going to place that lens onto them because they're having a different experience. But I'm going to use that, what I know about myself, to be curious about
Mm.
what's going on for them right now.
Yeah.
How can I be able to meet them where they are and be open with that perspective? So, but then also like I said before, coming back to being able to know what my personal values and beliefs and experiences are, and then when appropriate, connect with my clients in a way that they feel held by me because they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Tilby gets it.
Yes.
Or it's there's just something about it that deepens that rapport and the ability to connect with people that we're supporting rather than trying to be this like professional, closed off, not connected to heart. Our
Mm-hmm.
clients can't reach us from there. They
Yes.
need us to be in that space where we know ourselves and we feel safe in our own experience to be able to hold space for them, and so that we're open to be able to connect with them in a deeper level. So yeah, we kind of have to meet ourselves in that deeper way so that we can meet our clients in that deeper way too. Um,
It's so interesting too that, a lot of people that I've been connecting with lately, particularly professionals, have like taken their own experiences, done their own work, and then are now moving into a space where they're working with parents or teachers. So they're like pediatric therapists. And it's that whole process of understanding. I honestly believe it's like nervous system connection, and that if we can start with ourselves, okay, am I sorted? Am I grounded? Am I regulated? Do I have what I need to be able to share myself wholly and safely? Then can I then access people who are going to be connected to this child closely all the time? Can I upskill them? Can I assist them to do the same thing and move through the same process so that they feel safe and held and supported? And their nervous system is then ready to share on, like, to the children that they're working with. And I think it's so interesting that a lot of therapists now that I'm talking to that are sharing our visions and our feelings around this are also moving into kind of coaching roles.
mm,
And I believe that that's kind of, and I know it's a bit of an abstract concept, but that's sort of what we're talking about here, is that when we can connect on a deeper level, it's almost like we can facilitate sustained and really grounded change that becomes more effortless. It becomes easier and more tangible. Um, and then it has that ripple effect to other people in our lives. And I think that's a beautiful kind of thing to hold on to, that when we help someone else feel safe and connected and supported, and like they can tap into their true self, that shines out of them. And then I think that kind of just continues on.
that's exactly it. And that's how I like to frame every interaction I have with my clients and the people I work with and support.
Mm,
Every interaction that we're having is an opportunity for us to create those ripples. I mean, if we're
yeah.
if we're holding that space and we're regulated in our own being, that ripples out. It's like they say like if you smile at someone, then they start smiling and then they're gonna go smile to someone else.
Yeah.
It's like our heart and nervous system like smiling and like we're sharing those like smiles in our body by being able to work in that way. And
Yeah.
then the ripples ripple out.
Yeah. I love it. Would you have any advice to OTs who are perhaps beginning to explore this space or want to kind of branch out into a more holistic kind of way of providing service?
Yeah. So when I was first, I guess, nearing this edge for myself, I was reaching out to find a mentor or find an OT who was already doing work differently. Because first, that was the validation piece that I needed and the permission slip of like, okay, cool, it's safe to proceed. Someone else
Yeah.
is doing something a bit differently. And even just to be able to hear from their experience, like how they moved through it or what their journey was to be able to come from working in a really traditional way to being able to blend in other modalities or bring in other perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just like, for me, it was the most powerful piece because that allowed me to
Yeah.
move forward. If I didn't find anyone, I would have been stuck in fear and I would have talked myself out of moving forward. I don't know
Mm.
what I would have done, to be honest, because
Yeah.
I really wanted the two to fit together, my
Yeah.
body work and my OT worlds. So definitely seek out the support and find a mentor or find another OT who you can chat with who's doing something differently that aligns and feels like they're going in a similar direction.
Mm.
Um, because that in itself can be like just so potent and powerful. And then don't be afraid to move towards where your intuition or that inner like niggle is guiding you, because
Yeah.
oftentimes it's like, oh no, but that's not OT, or oh, that means I'll have to change these things. Like our logical mind will talk us out all the time. But if it's niggling at you and it's there and it won't leave you alone, like there for a reason. That little message wants you to follow the breadcrumbs
Yeah.
and move in that direction. And you don't have to know where it all fits at the start. Like if I had have had the problem I had later on with like how does bodywork and OT fit, I never would have gone down that path. But I was just intuitively guided and I just felt like I have to do this. It almost
Yeah.
felt like a little bit more for me than anything. And then I realized, oh, hang on, actually, I know where this fits now.
Mm.
But you don't have to have it all figured out. Just follow the breadcrumbs in the direction that you feel you're being pulled and find that support or the mentor or the OT who is doing what you are interested in learning more about so that you can, yeah, feel safe to have a go at looking at new ways of working because this is it's only going to expand. We're having this conversation now, and there are so many OTs in like the motherhood space, matrescent space.
Mm.
Like
Yes.
maybe even 5 years ago, there wasn't those OTs
No.
in that space. So
Yes.
this is like an expanding space, and I think there's just going to be more and more permission to being able to bring in other lenses to be
Mm-hmm.
able to work with our clients in a really specific and client-centered way.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that advice is funny because I was going to ask you if you had any advice for, people who were sort of seeking services or on their own journey. But I feel like it's almost like the same advice applies, right? It's like when you feel that kind of pull to a certain person or to explore a certain thing or whatever, like sometimes listening to that and allowing our nervous system to tell us things, like you were saying before about being caught in your head and not recognizing, the things that are coming from the body. We were talking earlier about how we're taught at school that no, you can't go to the toilet when you want to. You have to go at this time. You can't eat when you want to. You have to go at this time. And then you start unpacking that like, oh, actually, I'm hungry now. So maybe I should eat now, even if it is not lunchtime. And that's
Yeah.
sort of like a simple example, but I think, the same applies to that intuitive kind of pull or whatever. When we start listening to the body, it might be pulling us somewhere that we felt was maybe not what we were taught or like what we thought it would be. But if it's going to bring that eye sparkle, that, gleam in the eye, that joy to life, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And like just coming full circle, if we're showing up as fulfilled, energized, passionate therapists, I mean, look at the
Mm,
ripples that we're creating just through the energy we're bringing through our passion
yeah.
and love for what we're doing. We're going to be the best person to support our clients in that energy, as opposed to showing up in a way that where, things aren't kind of gelling for us and we're feeling a bit misaligned, or we're feeling like we're missing something, or we're feeling like this work or this role isn't quite aligned with us and there's something missing. That takes so much energy and it drains us. Whereas if
Yeah.
we're working in a way that's aligned and lights us up and like we've got sparkles in our eyes, like everyone wins. We all benefit from that.
100%. Yeah, I always love our chats. I feel like we align so much on our mission and our journey and what it is that we're experiencing, both as like individuals and therapists. And I, for one, find it really affirming for myself, chatting with more and more people who are in this space and are being able to be vulnerable about their own experiences as well. So thank you so much for like being so open and sharing so much about your own experiences. I will say too, I'm going to link Tilby's two Instagram things in the notes underneath if anyone wants to check out what Tilby's doing and the spaces that she's holding for people, and see a little bit more about the amazing work that she's doing, because I think it's so, so powerful. Is there anything else you wanted to share today, Tilby, before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you so much for the space, because I feel like I have wanted to share these things outside of my like one-to-one sessions or outside of my OT friend conversations. Like,
Yeah.
and this is just such a beautiful, safe space, and like such a wonderful platform, not only for therapists to be able to come, but for other people who are looking for support, or who are on their journey of like discovering themselves, to be able to come to this space, and yeah, listen to the conversations. And so thank you. I'm just super grateful.
Oh, you're so welcome. We're so grateful for you. I'm also going to link in here. I've created a Facebook group that's I've had a mind blank now. I think it's just called the Neurodiversity Empowerment Movement Group. So same as this interview series that I'm doing. So if anyone's interested in just connecting with other people, it is not a professional space. It really is just a space for anyone who identifies as either neurodivergent or working with this population, or just wanting to learn more. There's an amazing collective of people in there already, with such unique backgrounds. And I feel like for me and a lot of others, it's so affirming just to see people being themselves in a space that is held. So if anyone wants to come and check that out, we would love to have you. But thank you so much, Tilby, for being here. We absolutely treasure your time and everything that you've shared with us. I think you're an invaluable resource. And hopefully we can chat again soon, get some more juicy stuff going.
Definitely. We'll absolutely chat again soon. We have so many things we can chat about. So I look forward to next
100%.
time.
All right, Tilby, thank you so much.
Thank you.